Hello, this is Mr. Flatness, and we're going to go through the carousel review here, video style. So our goal here is to just review all the concepts of Chapter 8 that will be on your test tomorrow. Station 1, we're going to find the sum of these polynomials. So we're going to set them up vertically. So 8x squared, or 8w squared plus 4w minus 2. And underneath it, we got to make sure that we line them up. We're going to add 2w squared minus w, so that means 1w, plus 6. Now I can add the columns vertically, so here we're going to get 10w squared, 4w minus 1w, or we can say add 4w plus a negative w would be 3w, and then negative 2 plus 6 would be positive 4. So there's my sum for that one. And the next one, we're going to go 7b squared minus 5b plus 1. And we're going to add again. Here we got to take 2b squared first, minus 4b minus 6. So again, we're adding 7b squared, 2b squared, that's 9b squared. Minus 5b minus 4 more b's would be minus 9b. Again, I can add negative 5 plus a negative 4. And then again, adding again, 1 plus a negative 6 would be minus 5. So there would be the sum for that one. And then in the third one, we have negative 12x cubed plus 4x squared minus 6 plus x plus 2. And then underneath that, we're going to add 9x cubed minus 7x squared plus 2x minus 5. So here we're going to get negative 12 plus 9x is going to be negative 3x cubed. 4x squared minus 7x squared is going to be minus 3x squared. Negative 6x plus 2x would be minus 4x. And then negative 2 plus a negative 5 would be negative 3. That would be the sum for that one. In station 2, we're going to find the difference. So again, the big thing here that we need to understand is that subtraction, we're going to add the opposite of every single term. So changing positive 3m squared to negative, changing positive 9m to negative 9m, and then here changing negative 5 to plus 5. And then I'm simply going to use my skills of adding. I can line them up vertically again, or I can simply take 7m squared plus a negative 3m squared, and that's going to be 4m squared. 3m plus a negative 9m would be plus negative 6m. And negative 4 plus 5 would be plus 1. So there would be the difference there. Over here we'll add the opposite of every single term, so the opposite of negative 4b, make that a plus 9b, make that a negative 2. Negative 3b squared plus a negative 4b squared is going to be negative 7b squared. 7b plus 9b is going to be plus 16b. And 5 plus a negative 2 would be positive 3. So there's the sum there. Or I should say difference. Last one, we'll subtract, and I'm going to add the opposite again. So the opposite of negative 2x squared is positive 2x squared. The opposite of negative 3x is plus 3x. And then negative 2. 8x squared plus 2x squared is 10x squared. 3x plus 3x is going to be 6x. Negative 10 plus a negative 2 is going to be negative 12. And there would be my final difference for station 2. Moving on, we're going to find the products in station 3. So here I got a work distributed property. So in number 1, I'm going to look at distributing the 5x over to 3x, and that's going to be 15x squared plus 5x plus 7 or times 7, and that's going to be 35x. In the next example, I'm going to use FOIL. So first terms, 4x times 2x is going to be 8x squared. O for outside, 4x times 1 is 4x. Inside, negative 2 times 2x is going to be negative 4x. And then the last terms, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. So here we're going to have positive 4x and negative 4x, that equals 0. So my answer should be 8x squared minus 2. Here we're going to do 3x plus 1 squared. Well, that's the same thing as 3x plus 1 times 3x plus 1. So again, I can use FOIL. 3x times 3x, first term would be 9x squared. The outside's 3x times 1 is 3x. The inside 3x times 1 is 3x. And the last 1 times 1 is 1. 3x plus 3x is 6x, so my final answer is 9x squared plus 6x plus 1. The last one is more of a challenging one. I have a binomial here times a trinomial there. So I want to just take a look at distributing. And again, I'm going to distribute the x over all three. So x times x squared would be x cubed. X times positive 2x would be plus 2x squared. And x times a negative 1 would be minus 1x. Underneath here, I'm going to distribute the 1 over every single term. So 1 times x squared is x squared. 1 times 2x is going to be plus 2x. And then 1 times a negative 1 is minus 1. I can add these up vertically, so then I'm going to get x cubed plus 2x squared. Negative 1x plus 2x, that's going to be plus 1x minus 1. And there would be my product there. Moving on to station 4, factoring each polynomial. So what I want to do is take a look at the terms of this binomial in the first case, and notice that I can take 6 and 18 and they have a common factor of 6. So I'm going to factor out a 6, and then 6 divided by 6 is going to just leave me with the 1x squared, and 18 divided by 6 is going to be 3. So that would be factoring out a 6 from both of those. In this particular example, in the next one, we have 4, 2, and 2, so for sure I can factor out a 2. But also, if you notice, here I've got 4 y's, here I've got 2 y's, and here I got 1 y. So I can factor out also a y out of everything. So then that's going to leave y cubed. Here we're going to leave y, and then here we're going to leave plus 1. So factoring out a 2y, again, and this would be 2y cubed actually, because I have to take 4 divided by 2 gives me the 2, and then y to the 4th divided by y is y to the 3rd. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1y, and then y squared divided by y is y. And then 2y divided by 2y, well, that's 1. In the last example, we have 48b minus 12b squared. And you take a look at that, I can factor out a 12b from everything. So 48b divided by 12b is going to be 4. And then 12b squared divided by 12b would just simply give you a b. And I can always check my answers by redistributing, and then I can make sure that I get back to the original equation. So that's one way that you can use checks to solve or to get back to the right answer, to make sure that you solved it correctly. In the next station 5, we're going to use the zero product property. Remember, if I have two numbers that are multiplying together are supposed to equal 0, then that means one or both numbers are going to be equal to 0. So 3x minus 6 could equal 0, and so could 2x plus 1 equals 0. Add 6 to both sides. 3x is equal to 6. Divide both sides by 3. X could equal 2. Or subtract 1 from both sides. 2x would equal negative 1. Divide by 2. X could also be negative 1/2. So we could say one or the other for that particular example. In the next one, x plus 4 could equal 0, or x minus 1 could equal 0. Subtract 4 from both sides, x would equal negative 4, or add 1 to both sides, x could equal 1. So in the next example we had there, x could equal negative 4, or x could equal 1. In the last one, we have x squared minus 25 could equal 0, in which case I'll add 25 to both sides. So x squared would equal 25. Take the square root of both sides. X could equal 5. Or negative 5, plus or negative. And then the other one, we have x plus 10 is equal to 0. Subtract 10 from both sides. X would equal negative 10. So any of those would work out. Here we found out that we would have 3 as a solution versus 2. So that's using the zero product property. In station 6, we're going to apply our knowledge of all of the chapter with a simple geometry problem. I know that the perimeter of this particular triangle here is 6x squared plus 8y. And I know that finding the perimeter means I have to add this leg plus this leg plus this leg. So if I want to find out the third leg, I simply need to take the total perimeter and subtract it from these two sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the two sides of the triangle, 2x squared plus x minus 5y. And here I'm going to take x squared minus y. So I can add those together first. So that's going to be 3x squared plus x. And then negative 5y plus a negative y would be minus 4y. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to subtract. So here's the perimeter, 6x squared plus 8y. And I'm going to subtract the sum of the two sides. So minus 3x squared plus x minus 4y. Now if you remember, if I'm subtracting, I have to add the opposite of every single term. So in doing that, 6x squared minus 3x squared, or plus a negative 3x squared, is going to be 3x squared. Notice there's a 0x term in here. So 0x plus a negative x, that's still going to leave me with negative x. And 8y plus 4y is going to give me 12y. So that would be then the side of that triangle as a polynomial. In the next slide, we're going to take a look at finding area. So here, remember, we got to know some area formulas. For a rectangle, area is equal to length times width. And then for the triangle, area is equal to 1/2 the base times the height. So if I want to find the area of the shaded region, I would need to find the area of the whole rectangle. And then if I found the area of the triangle and then subtracted the two, I would get the area of the shaded region. So we're going to find the area of the rectangle first. So that's going to be 4x plus 1 times, and the part of the triangle that I have here is 2x minus 3 plus another 5x. So to simplify that, that's going to be 4x plus 1. 2x and 5x is going to be 7x minus 3. So to find the area, I'm going to use FOIL. First, 4x times 7x is going to be 28x squared. Outside, 4x times a negative 3 is going to be negative 12x. Inside, 7x times 1 is going to be plus 7x. And last, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. I can clean that up and say that that's 28x squared. Negative 12 plus 7x is going to be minus 5x minus 3. So that's the area of the rectangle. And I can put that up here. 28x squared minus 5x minus 3. Now I need to find the area of the triangle, and that's going to be 1/2 times the base, 2x minus 3, and then times the height, which again is 4x plus 1. So I'm going to distribute the half over the 2x and over the negative 3. So that's going to be x, and then half of 3 is negative 1.5, or 1.5, times 4x plus 1. Again, I can use FOIL. 4x times x is going to be 4x squared. Outside, x times 1 is going to be 1x. 1.5, negative 1.5 times 4 is negative 6x, and then negative 1.5 times 1 is negative 1.5. So then I can combine and get 4x squared plus a negative 5x minus 1.5. So here we got the area of the triangle. Here we got the area of the rectangle. To get the area of the shaded region, I'm going to take the area of the rectangle, which is 28x squared minus 5x minus 3, and I'm going to subtract from that 4x squared minus 5x minus 1.5. So again, I'm going to remember I'm subtracting polynomials, so I'm going to add the opposite of every single term. Make that a plus 5x, make that a plus 1.5. So then the final area would be, of the shaded region, would be 24x squared. Negative 5x and a positive 5x gives you 0 x's. And negative 3 plus a 1.5 is going to give you a negative 1.5. So that would be the area of the shaded region. And in Station 8, the final application to get yourself ready for this particular test. At the 4th of July celebration, a rocket is launched straight up with an initial velocity of 125 feet per second. The height of the rocket in feet above sea level is modeled by the formula h is equal to negative 16t squared plus 136t, where t is time in seconds after the rocket is launched. So again, we got vertical motion principles here. And if you remember earlier in the previous chapter, we solved this particular equation using the quadratic formula. Well, I'm here to show you now, if we have some understanding about factoring and also knowing about the zero product property that we just learned, we can find the time in seconds a different way. We don't need the quadratic. We don't need to graph it. So here's what we're going to do. We know that negative 16t squared plus 136t would have to be equal to, well, when it hits the ground, it's going to be 0. So that's how I'm going to start it. The next thing I can do is take a look at this side of the equation and note that I can do some factoring. I can factor out some things. I can factor out an 8 because 8 is a factor of 16 and 8 is also a factor of 136. And I can also factor out a t. So I'm going to factor out 8t. So then what's negative 16 divided by 8? That's going to be negative 2. T squared divided by t is going to give me t. And 136 divided by 8 is going to be 17. And t divided by t is 1. So now what I have is a monomial times a binomial is equal to 0. So now I can use the zero product property, because I know that if a number times another number has to equal 0, then either this number has to equal 0, or this number has to equal 0, or both. So either 8t is going to be equal to 0. I'll divide both sides by 8. T then is equal to 0. Well, would it make sense that the rocket's going to hit the ground in 0 seconds? No, that means we never even launched it. So the other one is going to be negative 2t plus 17 equals 0. Now I'll subtract 17 from both sides, and that's going to give me negative 2t is equal to negative 17. I'll divide both sides by negative 2, and then t then is going to equal 8.5. So it's going to take 8.5 seconds for the rocket to be launched and then hit the ground. So a different way to use the vertical motion and our knowledge of the zero product property, and as well as factoring to get our answer. This concludes the Carousel review video. We wish you the very best on the test tomorrow, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.